Right, now moving on, police chiefs have been granted tougher powers to crack down on officers who may have had allegations made against them in the past.
So it means those who fail vetting checks will now be automatically sacked from the police force.
So Yvette Cooper's saying that the changes are essential to us restoring confidence in policing, but we're not entirely convinced.
Let's talk to former Police and Crime Commissioner Festus Akinbiseo. Have I got your name? Have I pronounced that horribly wrong, Festus?
You're perfect.
Oh, you say that very nicely. Festus, on the paper, this sounds like this is a very sensible move by the Home Secretary, getting tough, making sure that dodgy cops are booted out. But is it more draconian than it seems? Will it be, if an allegation is made against a police officer, he or she's then immediately removed from the line of duty, possibly losing their job before the complaint is properly investigated?
Look, everybody wants any corrupt police officer out of the job.
Sure.
I've been in uniform as a special constable, but I've also been police and crime commissioner, and I can tell you now, no one wants corrupt Ben coppers out of the job more than the law-abiding professional police officers. That is just standard. It is just not worth keeping them in the job for the headache that they cause. So they have got to go. However, it is also important that chief constables have the powers to be able to remove these individuals from the job, but it has got to be done having followed due process.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure that the solution to this is to give chief constables sweeping powers to be able to just get rid of anyone because of an allegation that has been made rather than them being convicted. So in my opinion, what needs to happen is that we need to have fair and fast yet robust investigation of allegations against police officers. And if they're found to have done wrong and they're guilty, they should be sacked straight away.
This video is sponsored by Saily. Saily is a brand new eSIM service app. What it does is get you a local SIM card that you can use when you're traveling, so you don't have to pay those crazy roaming fees just to send a text back home. They've got eSIM plans in over 160 countries and 8 regions, so pretty much wherever you're going, they'll be able to make sure you're connected. So how does it work? Well, all you've got to do is hit our link in the description to download the app. It will work on iOS or Android. Buy a plan, you can choose the best time frame for you, and then just install the eSIM on your phone. When you land at your holiday destination, you can activate your plan instantly. Saily eSIMs only ever have to be installed once, so when you go on your next trip, you just buy a plan for a new country, turn that eSIM back on, and just like that, you could be watching the GB News YouTube channel. You can be connected anywhere you go, and you don't have to deal with patchy Wi-Fi in your hotels. So get sorted for your next trip by downloading Saily using the link in the description below, and if you use our code NEWS at checkout, you'll get an exclusive 15% discount on us.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that you will have been found guilty of something, Festus, will it? It's just that if an allegation is made against you that hasn't yet been cleared up, that sounds very draconian and sort of authoritarian, actually, because you could have somebody that just doesn't like you in the police and wants to make an allegation against you, and then you're sent home. Frankly, we don't have enough police officers at the moment.
You know, I was in Fulham yesterday with a special constable in the Met who had been in the job for about 10 years. He had numerous complaints made against him, which were all thrown out.
Yeah.
Okay. Police officers have complaints against them all the time. The vast majority of these end up being thrown out without any further case to answer. However, there are those cases, the historical ones, where some officers have remained in the job despite red signals flashing all over the place against them.
Yeah.
But they remain in the job and they went on to do something absolutely grotesque.
Let me jump in there. Of course, we think of Wayne Couzens, who raped and murdered Sarah Everard. There were indecent exposure allegations made against him which were not investigated properly.
That is true. And he's not just the only one. And there have been several others who have gone on to do absolute grotesque stuff if you just look at their backstory. So, but my opinion, what I keep saying is this, is the solution to this problem, this sweeping powers being given to chief constables. And if memory serves me right, this used to be the case. But I believe this powers was kind of rolled back some years ago, because if you happen to be on the bad books of the chief constable, you're out, mate. Because the chief doesn't like your face doesn't fit.
Yeah.
So how do we know that? I mean, look, I'm not casting any aspersions on the character of chief constables. I know very many of them, and they are very, very good people. But how do we know that if someone challenged the chief constable doesn't quite like them, they will not be fast-tracked through the police organization? I think what we need to be doing instead, rather than these sweeping powers, is to ensure that there is a fast, robust, and good investigation into any complaints about police officers. And if they're guilty, get rid of them.
Absolutely.
Simple.
And if they're not, let them go back to their job.
Now, this morning we learned that the police who fail vetting will be sacked immediately. Interesting that they got to the state where they've been employed in any case. So tell me more about that, and also what your plans are to ensure that it doesn't happen again and we don't employ officers who are not good enough.
So this is about vetting. So this is about officers, as you say, who are employed already. They have to go through vetting every few years, and if they move between particular police forces or change jobs, there's usually re-vetting. But what the procedure is at the moment is, if they don't fulfil the vetting procedure, there's no way of then dismissing them or getting rid of them. And that seems to me, and I think the public would agree, to be wrong. So this is about providing a way for chief constables to make sure if someone cannot hold vetting as a police officer, they can be dismissed. Of course, there is a right of appeal, because that has to be put in place, but it does provide that way of removing people who should not be within the police. And vetting is looking at the background of an individual and building a picture to see if they are a risk to the public or to colleagues. And if they can't hold vetting, then removing them from the police service.
Okay.
Diana, with all due respect, why has it taken so long to get to this stage? One would have thought, with all the scandals over the past 4 years, something would have been done much sooner about this.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. This should have been done far sooner. When Labour came in last July, we made very clear, the Home Secretary in October set out a whole series of steps to improve standards within policing. This is one measure. There are other measures that we will be bringing in the next few months, including strengthening the requirements around suspending officers where there are issues around domestic abuse or sexual offending. Treating those officers who are found guilty of certain offences as treating that as gross misconduct and a presumption that they would be dismissed from policing. So there's a whole range of things that we want to do to improve standards. But you're absolutely right, this should have been done a long time ago.
Because he's been campaigning for full transparency of all those who commit crime, with details of nationality, visa status and asylum status. I think, however, it's come to you and these plans have been watered down now. Where does the Labour government stand with this?
I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of that, but I think you're talking about the information being provided around offending.
That's right, yeah. I'm asking you, where do you stand with that? Because Robert Jenrick wanted it on nationality, visa status and asylum status.
So later in the year, that information will be made available. I don't have the full details, but I think it's really important that there is transparency, because there's a lot of misinformation about in relation to offending. So the Home Secretary has made it clear that we want to provide that transparency and that information. So when these issues are debated, we can actually look at the facts of the case and look at the statistics.
Okay,
so that information will be forthcoming.
So you will be providing the nationality, visa status and asylum status of people who commit crimes. You're saying it.
I haven't got the detail of exactly what's going to be published, but I'm certainly aware the nationality information will be provided. I'm not sure about the other issues. I can come back to you on that.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind, that would be good, Minister. Also, I wanted to ask you, are you pleased now with the Supreme Court ruling that biological sex will be king?
Yes. Or queen even.
Or queen?
Yes.
Absolutely.